I'm a firm believer in giving credit where credit is due, just as I equally uphold that you should not give credit where it isn't due. I also wholeheartedly realize that we live in a world where platforms for political agency are becoming increasingly frequent, where more often than not conversations on any substantially relevant topic boil down to what you say and not what you mean. And in a world full of people bent on doing nothing but taking, the benefit of the doubt is sometimes the most anyone can reasonably give. Wonder Woman is not a great movie. It's not even a particularly good one either. And surprisingly or not, it has absolutely nothing to do with what I said prior. I'm never one to downplay the importance of context in the judgment of art, but judging art simply by its context rather than by its content is unacceptable. Yes, Wonder Woman is the first female-led big-budget superhero movie in over a decade, and that's fantastic, but it doesn't make it a great film. And yes, it's also true that this is the first of such films, ever if I'm not mistaken, to be helmed by a female director, and again, that's awesome, but it doesn't make it good. And yes, once more, the 3 DC Extended Universe films that preceded Wonder Woman were all so bad that Wonder Woman could probably only have looked better by comparison no matter what. Man of Steel had its head so far up its own ass it could floss with its own ureters. Batman vs. Superman was basically the world's most expensive train wreck, and Academy Award-winning Suicide Squad made me want to fucking die. All of this is true, I know it, you know it, but nobody is doing anybody any favors by dwelling on it. I hadn't initially intended for the intro to this review to ramble so fucking much, but something about the acclaim for Wonder Woman genuinely feels unfounded to me. People are actually praising this film for breaking the superhero movie formula. Seriously, this is one of the most by-the-books, paint-by-numbers genre films I've seen in probably the past 5 years. Sure, parts of it are cool and all, but ultimately I've seen this movie 100 times. Open up the movie with a seemingly irrelevant flash-forward complete with self-reflective narration that will be repeated with additional context in the movie's denouement whether you want it to or not. Front-load the first 15 minutes with a mountain of exposition explaining in the most juvenile terms the stuff you already interpreted prior to the film even starting because you're not stupid and you know it's based on a fucking comic book. Seriously, Superman exists in this universe. An island of superwomen created by the actual gods of Greek mythology is not outside the realm of plausibility. I'm looking forward to the first half hour of Aquaman where they basically give us a fucking museum docent tour of Atlantis. Kickstart the actual plot with a series of coincidences so blatant that even the most ardent advocates of metaphysical causality would call it particularly odd. From that point on, the act structure reads like a fucking screenwriting textbook as each side progresses at a carefully measured pace, and the heroes assemble a ragtag group of support characters who are given just enough depth to not immediately have the word expendable emblazoned on their foreheads in glowing neon letters. A conflict of interest results in the 2 leads fighting amongst themselves like we're in a shitty romantic comedy all of a sudden. The good guys then engage an enemy whose true identity is painfully obvious. The hero is initially overpowered but is filled with conviction upon seeing the bravery and sacrifice of her allies. The big bad is then defeated and everyone lives more or less happily ever after. All seems fairly standard and unimpressive to me. In fact, the only time I was surprised was at the end credits when I found out that David Goyer and Chris Terrio didn't actually write this movie. Seeing as the last act of Wonder Woman matches the progression of the climax of Batman v Superman to a fucking T sans the bullshit preceding, it was almost uncanny how closely the 2 movies paralleled one another. Oh, and Wonder Woman even has a giant blue laser beam in the sky at one point because I guess they just couldn't fucking help themselves. The cast is more of a mixed bag. Gal Gadot is actually a pretty decent Wonder Woman, but I couldn't for the life of me say that she gave a good performance. I don't know, something about her delivery and the way she's constantly moving her head and eyes makes it seem like she's easily distracted, which kind of works in a fish out of water kind of way, but if she's still keeping this up by Justice League, it's gonna get really annoying. Everyone else is various shades of alright. Also, Spud from Trainspotting is in this movie. A surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. For all the vaunted complexity of the film's World War I era setting, it really didn't make much use of the period in any significant way. You could have pasted this story onto really any major multinational conflict that didn't involve Nazis with any hypothetical weapon of mass destruction as the designated plot MacGuffin, and nothing of value would really have been lost. And despite a promise of moral ambiguity, the movie doesn't have anything to say outside of not all people are chaotic evil, laced with some trite love will conquer all crap. Grasping at straws to point out things that this movie did particularly well, I can at least say that it was cohesively edited. I could tell what the fuck was going on in more than most scenes. The direction was decent, but that was never really these movies' problems to begin with. They actually told a joke or two without feeling the need to shoehorn it into an otherwise serious action scene. What else? I like how they didn't do a cringeworthy title drop. That was neat. So congratulations, Warner Brothers and DC, you made a passable movie. But you know what they say, practice makes perfect, C's get degrees, and I'm a misogynist for not thinking this was the best superhero movie ever. See you next time.